here we go. Welcome back to another Montreal Canadian weekly report with the hockey coach, Coach Frenchy, directly for the beautiful country of Thailand. One amazing, great Monday night, February 10, 2025. Hopefully, an amazing, great start of the week. Yes, no hockey, honestly, for the next 12, 13 games about the Montreal Canadian. For the Four Nation tournament is to start Wednesday night. So we're going to have a great tournament for the fans, the hockey fans, watching for the next 2 weeks between Finland, Sweden, Canada, and of course the Team USA. We're going to talk about more the tournament tomorrow night at the Notebook Show with Mr. Marco Larabi. He's going to be with me talking about the Four Nation. And but tonight for the weekly report, honestly, we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. And the subject of the night, guys, is about the Montreal Canadiens, where they are center at the deadline, and maybe more confirmed by what happening honestly, it's only last weekend Super Bowl for the Montreal Canadiens with two losses again the Devils and the Lightnings. We're going to go through the recap game as only we can, but of course they played 4 games last week. And we'll talk about those games also. A couple news about the Montreal Canadiens, and then we'll talk about what happening now for Ken Hughes, but for a couple of players. And the reason why who they are at this moment. Going to review the record of the last 9 games. So a lot of things to talk about. We're going to flow with, of course, with the Q&A session. If you have any question about the Montreal Canadian, and hopefully it will going to be a good show overall. But a show at the weekly report without them, it's impossible because they bring not only the fun, but they also bring some knowledge about the Montreal Canadian, and they are back with me tonight as a co-host. One from Toronto, one from Nova Scotia. They are in the house, Mr. Enortap and Devin. Welcome back.
Good evening, Hockey Nation.
What's
Gentlemen,
up?
great to be with you.
Yes, absolutely. Great to see everybody.
How was
Great to be
you?
here.
How was you? The weather is going on in Canada.
Oh, it's
Tons
cold.
of snow.
Yeah,
Cold and
we're
snowy.
getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, hasn't changed.
Yeah, no, it's been snowing off and on for like 3 days here, and we've got, I don't know, there's probably 30 centimeters on the ground right now, which is a lot for us. So, and it's supposed to snow a lot on the weekend. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't mind the snow. I'd rather have snow than cold, but yeah, no, it's winter for sure.
32 Celsius in Thailand, day
Oh,
after
that's all.
day,
That's cool.
day after day.
Did you put your
We're
sweater
still
on?
looking for Reggie. I don't know, see Reggie for that couple of days. So I don't know what's going on with my friend Reggie. I lost him a couple of days ago. He left at 1 o'clock a.m. I don't know what happening, but hopefully he's going well. He live about 1.6 mile from me, honestly. So he's still in town. So it's good to see the Reggie. We have my friend Pierre is coming in town tomorrow from Saint Jerome. He's been with me last 2 months ago, so he come back in Tehran. And we have my friend from Chicago, and then we have another friend from Florida is going to be in town next weekend. So the month of February is honestly it's a big month for the tourists in Thailand. And now it's going to be the last month to people visit Chiang Mai because the smoky season, start the next month in Chiang Mai. So a lot more people's coming in town. So really busy in Thailand. That's a great place to visit. That's the reason I'm losing my voice or have some kind of problem, honestly. But I'm going to go through this the next couple of days. The good news, Mr. Ostap and David, the bar are closed tonight for 24 hours. So that's going to be a recovery night, like my break of my All-Star game. Not 12:30 games, but only one night. And that coincides with even the Vidal back on the ice tonight after a great performance of the All-Star game. Go about the Laval Rocket, going to talk about the prospect tonight. So a lot of things on the plate for talking about, and that would take us a great 2 hours talking about the Montreal Canadiens. And of course, we'll do the clash at the end of the show. We're going to welcome everybody. LDP back in the house. Welcome back, Mr. LDP. Hopefully, you're doing well. Mr. with your Buffalo Sabres. John D is in the house. Welcome back, John D. Yes, we are agree with you about that. Going to talk about that situation the next couple of minutes. ODR is back in there with us tonight. Hopefully doing well. Mr. RDL. Billy, back again, Mr. Billy D. Glad to see you. Senderman, welcome. Not sure I see Senderman's on the weekend, but welcome back, Billy and Senderman. Roger Bush Bouchard knocked the door tonight. Hopefully you're doing well. Bush going to talk about all the rumeurs about the Montreal Canadiens and everything. Luc Laforcine, de l'Ange Gardien. De bonheur ce soir avec nous, Luc Laforcine. Hopefully doing well. Luc, retire. Luc, so he has nothing to do too much around the house during the day. Abination, bing bing, welcome in the house, Mr. Abination. And we have also Yamo Vartanen, ready for the formation. Yamo, of course, is from Finland. In our time, he's going to watching the Finland, Sweden. At the end, he don't really care. Be sure that Sweden does not win. That's one thing he's looking for, Yamo. The rest, no matter. So.
You're right. That's the Stanley Cup.
Exactly. PLW knocked it out tonight. He go with down sick with 35 points. Good luck about that. Basketball, PLW, key consistent streak night after that. Run with Kings, Moderator. Big fans of the Kings and the Utah. Back in the house tonight. Welcome back. Luc Fortin knocked the door. Hopefully you're doing well. Zev Lacab is in the house tonight. Welcome back. Mr. Seth Keith Green, I know you're a friend of Martin, a coach, but you're totally wrong. It's a night that they all better prepare for Laval Rocket. Keith, I'm telling you right now, Martin St. Louis is not a problem. You have other problem around the Martin St. Louis. About that, too much snow for Luc Laforcine over there. Autrement, winter here in Ontario for Luc Martin. Nicholas knocked the door. I talk about Sweden, but Nicholas, for you want to be sure Finland does not win, Mr. Enortap. So, we have both of them in the chat. So, welcome everybody. Take some more brochure about this. AG is in the house. Welcome back. And do the bean pot. AG tonight, for doing well. Again, you're absolutely about this decision of Jacob Fuller. And I don't know.
Still 1-0.
I don't know the score yet.
Yep. It's 1-0. 16 minutes left in the second.
Okay. So
for Boston College, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we're going to follow up the next couple of minutes, of course. And we have another thing to talk about. So don't go nowhere, guys. We're going to bring you everything. First of all, we're going to talk about the formation news that we got. We're going to talk about more about tomorrow with Marco. But the team national USA announced Quinn Hughes is out. They bring Jake Sanderson is in. And people say, why? It's not a big news. But what I want to talk about this, guys, about Jake Sanderson, I think is underrated. Have an amazing, great run for the last. The reason that Ottawa was doing well is because Jake Sanderson performance for the last month. So, what do you think about Jake Sanderson?
Well, of course, missing out on somebody like Quinn Hughes is a huge hole for the American squad. But as you said, Coach, I think Sanderson is having a great season so far, and I think he can slip right into that spot. And what you could probably do now is you can bring up somebody like Wierenski on the power play to fill in that gap that Quinn Hughes creates if they on the power play. So, you're always going to miss somebody like a Quinn Hughes, but it's not the depth is there for them to fill that spot.
Yeah, you're absolutely about that. Would be interesting what they're going to do. The Team USA again, during the tournament over there. This is a big team, a lot of big, great players. But Devin will ask you this question about the formation. They announced Team Canada. Crosby is in. This is a great news. Montebo was the third yellow today on the practice. Look like he's not going to make see the ice at this moment. But how you feel about the Team Canada during the tournament? We know also Pietrangelo is out and Dali is in. So what are you feeling about that? And also, David, ask about what you feel about the intensity of those games. Do you see some kind, the initial intensity, or it's going to be a little bit more less of that, or maybe not at all? So how you feel about that?
Yeah, a lot of questions there. One, I mean, it's great to see Crosby in the lineup. Crosby, I thought, if there's any way he's going to be able to play I think he would do whatever he could to do that. I mean, Pittsburgh also doesn't have to worry about a playoff run or anything like that. So for him, Quinn Hughes is a bit of a different situation, right? If he ends up being hurt for a long term or whatever, they're making a playoff run. So yeah, it's good to see Crosby there. Montembeault, third string goaltender. I have no problem with that. I don't think Canadian goalies are all that strong. I mean, frankly, I think he's a better goalie than Binnington. But it is what it is. Realistically, I mean, at this point, we could probably look at some guys who aren't even in the on the roster who might be more deserving of being there. But again, it is what it is, and I'm happy to see him on the team. But I don't think he's done anything where it's considered a snub or that he deserves to be either the starter or the backup. So again, I'm not that concerned about that. But you do raise a really good question, Coach, about the intensity, and I think that's going to be one of the things I'm most interested in looking for. Is are we going to be closer to sort of that Olympic hockey style intensity, or are we going to be closer to the all-star style intensity? What's the physical aspect of the game going to be like? Are the teams going to be, running on national pride, or are they going to be just like trying to get through this tournament without getting injured? And personally, I think that's going to be not just an interesting thing to see, but it'll also be a big factor as well, right? I think if a team like Canada goes out and plays with a ton of intensity, and the Americans treat it like an all-star game, then one team's going to be in trouble, and the other team is going to do a lot. They're going to move on. Not that I expect that, and if vice versa happens as well. So I think it was Nicholas Head who was somebody said after the game last night about this is a really, really short tournament, and you can't afford to get behind. Like, you lose one game, and you can really screw yourself over, because it's a 3-game round robin and then the final. There's no playoff, there's no third place game. It's so if you go out and you're not ready to go in that first game, you can really hinder or hamper your chances of making it to that final. So I will be interested, Coach, to see what the intensity level is like, because I think that is one of the big question marks going into the tournament.
Yeah, the other thing, if I can add, Devin, is as well, if I personally don't think it'll happen. I do believe that the intensity will be there. I think anytime a player, puts the jersey of their country and represents their country, it instinctually comes out. But if you get a team that doesn't have that intensity while some other team does, I mean, that's when you're susceptible to injuries as well. So they have to be very careful of that.
Yeah, and I think that if one team does show up with a bunch of intensity and the other one doesn't, I don't think it'll take long for them to figure it out and realize that we're not here for a Sunday skate. We better put our big boy pants on and figure this out. So again, I'm with you. I don't see a team coming out and treating this like an exhibition, because, like you say, they do take pride in wearing that jersey. Certainly, I don't think Sidney Crosby is going to allow that to happen. BU just scored 2 quick goals. They're up 2-1. Anyways, yeah, I think it will be interesting to see how the teams match up intensity wise, though.
I expect me to, for me, there's some kind of the pride behind that, right? To wear that jersey, first of all. Uh, you know, you're going to, when you have any Kachuk in the tournament, you're going to have some kind of intensity and some kind of animosity, and then marchand. But my point behind that, we forgot one thing. This is a bit more the preview of the Olympics team next year in February. So I think there will be a little bit more of this we're going to count also. So at the end of the day, I expect a more challenge, better, more intensity what maybe we expect during the tournament. Of course, tomorrow night with Marco, we'll talk about this more a little bit more. BU takes score 2 goals, back to back, and take the lead now 2-0, 2-1. I think 2 goals in this, in like 1-2 minutes. So we're going to give you a little bit more information about what's going on around that part over there. But Montreal Canadiens, Mr. Enortap, sent down Owen Beck and Logan Mailloux back in American Hockey League. The yo-yo, honestly. This is good news for them. First of all, I think they're going to have a chance to play 5 games. The Rocket are going to be busy during that 2 weeks weekend. And then we'll see if they're going to return with the Montreal Canadiens at that moment. But this is good for the Laval Rocket to hear the two players like Quebec and Mayu. Both players was the representative of the Rocket at the All-Star game at the American Hockey League. And they don't miss them because they won the ball game. Sorry, we can go talk about this a bit later, but I think this is good to see Beck and Mayu back in the American Hockey League. And finally, we have other news. I want to talk about this. The break of 12 days, more benefit. So I would like to ask both of you, who is the most benefit for the Montreal Canadiens as a player? Of course, as a team, Martin St. Louis is going to be somewhere, hiding somewhere, for sure, with a record of 171 the last 9 games. But how you feel about the front player are going to benefit them to have a break during the next couple of days? Of course, Samuel Montembeault, Patrick Laine, and Joel Armia are at the formation. But the rest of the team, how you feel about that?
I mean, I'll say for me, I think that the person who's going to benefit the most from the break is going to be Patrick Laine, because I think he's going to be, he's going to be in a, he's going to be playing hockey. I think he's probably going to be playing in a scenario where he's, pretty comfortable, playing with his countrymen, playing for his country, and I think it'll give him an opportunity to get some of his confidence back, and um, it'll get give him a chance to get his groove back a little bit. I think. I mean, we saw a little bit of it in the last game. I think he looked better, but again, I think his confidence is shot right now, and I think that playing for his national team, playing for that jersey, playing with guys that he's played with off and on for his entire life, I think it will benefit him. Hopefully, coming back, and we'll see what kind of obviously the rest is nice, and I definitely get that, but I don't think that rest is necessarily what he needs right now. I think he needs an opportunity to play in a situation where he can succeed, like be put in a position to succeed and be in a position to get some of that confidence back. And so, for me, that's the guy I mean, if we're talking about a break rest wise, I think there's probably other guys that are, Josh Anderson probably could use a rest on that knee, which appears to be bothering him a little bit. There's probably guys who could benefit from the rest. But as far as who is going to benefit the most from this break, the first name that comes to my mind is Patrick Laine. Laine.
Mr. Enortap.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think just for the entire team alone, it's a good time for them to have a deserved break, in the sense that, not from a physical point of view, but it looks like, and Marty St. Louis alluded to this in his last press conference. I think mentally they're very tired, and so just to get away from the game. There's a lot of young players on this team, and some of them are not used to the grind of the game for 82 games. Usually, they finish what, at around 40 or 45, depending on how far they go in the playoffs when they're playing in their respective leagues before they come to the NHL. So they're just not used to it, and so to get a bit of a break, a couple weeks, so that they can sort of recharge, I think is what Marty St. Louis said. It will serve all of them well. Plus, guys like Heineman hopefully will be ready to go once these 2 weeks are done. Unfortunately, Gooley, I hope we see a quick recovery, but I doubt we'll see him the rest of this year. But there's a lot of guys like Anderson and Gallagher that you could tell they're playing a bit hurt, even though they're giving it their best. So give them a bit of time to recover physically, but most importantly, mentally.
Good point about that. I think, like you mentioned, physicality, the physical of the bodies of front players, like a Kevin injury. I think Savard Anderson come in my mind. Any man will take advantage of those 2 weeks and not have to come back when the Montreal can return on the ice. I believe he's going to be ready against Ottawa. So injury wise, some people please go through the bubble. In French, we said that, right? Madison, maybe another one is hiding some kind of injury all year long for that. Well, on the mindset of the game, I think Sakoski, one, Patrick Laine is another one there. Will be relieved of the Montreal Canadiens. You have, of course, Lane Hudson mentally is currently, it's fun play. Minus 12, send the game again at Toronto Maple Leaf when he's struggling that night. Yeah, a couple of players right there, like Nick Suzuki right now is on the slump. Cole Caulfield is a slump. Um, so he feel about this is going to be helping them for on the man side of the game. So good recharge overall for the team, honestly. And we'll see how they go to respond with 26 games remaining until to the end of the season. It's not going to be easy for Montreal Canadiens because okay, now they recharge, they are ready. Uh, Other team, many of them compete for the playoff spot. They are still in the we have a 4 3 point behind the last spot. So we'll be interesting how difficult it's going to be. And but Montreal can take advantage of a couple of games in the first 5 games, and they play the Sharks and the Buffalo Sabres 2 times. Uh, so we said, oh, it's not going to be easy, but he can take a couple of points there to come back a little bit better for the mindset and for the rest of the season. So we'll see what's happening, but we're going to talk about the recap of the game. Montreal again last week have a 1-3-0. Beat the Sharks. Last again the Kings. Last again the Wolves. Last again of course the Lightning that's on the
Tampa Bay.
weekend. 10 goals for 18 the last 4 games, and they are -8. It's funny, guys, because now they are returning at -31. So they get a little bit warmer at -12 for a couple of the lower they get, I believe, is -12. Now they are back at -31. And you can see Tobel 0-2-0, 4.50 goal again average the last 2 games. He got removed with 3 goals and 10 shots last game. Suzuki is 1 point, Caulfield 2 points, Sakaski 1 point, 4 points for the first line. Um, in the last 4 games, and the points Sakaski was with the third line, by the way. Laney, 0 point. Evans, 1 point. Amir, 1 point. Anderson, 0 point. Devorak, 1 point. Beck, 0 point. The rest have a couple of points. I'm talking about New Hook and Dak Gallagher. Of course, the power play on Slovene for the unit number 1. Not for the unit number 2, the number 1. Sakaski, Caulfield, Suzuki, Laney, and Lennartson. Too many passengers for the Montreal Canadiens in the last 4 games, and then the goalie struggling, Montembeault and Tobesh overall. And I could add also the defenseman core are not looking good for the last 4 games. So this is the recap of what happened last week. So we can talk getting more what happened on the weekend. So Enortap, we're going to start with you. How you feel about that?
Well, definitely the goalies have struggled, right? But I think that's sort of part and parcel with the fact that we've seen the defensive structure sort of falter a little bit in some games more so than others, and again that comes partly because people are sort of not playing in their proper positions, so that has something to do with it. I mean, I would debate the phrase "there are too many passengers." If you look at the last 2 games, Coach, I really don't think that Montreal was outplayed both in the New Jersey game and the Tampa Bay game. You look at the deep analytics of those 2 games, especially the last one against Tampa. We outshot them, we outhit them. We killed all our penalties. No, actually, they were 1-for-1, so that one doesn't count. But we had more block shots. I mean, there's a number of things you can go through, and you can see if they just had some luck in scoring and executing with the opportunities that they had. We had more danger zone shots on net. Like I don't think that we should be overly disappointed with that. It's one thing if they were getting blown out 8-2, like
But
Seattle
you
or
think you don't
Pittsburgh.
think Lightning give up with the game? It's a bit
No,
happening with the Sheep yesterday. The Sheep has scored 22 points when the game was over. Tampa Bay shut down everything after 3-1. They play a
no, they
back-to-back
didn't.
game after
No,
that. So
Tampa
you know
Bay
what? They
didn't give
just
up.
protect their friends.
If
Same thing
you
with the Devils after that. The Devils Montreal on the
absolutely
sling. And so although I disagree what we said, we gave they play very well. I disagree with you about that a lot. Like
The
No,
numbers in
the
the first
Canadian,
period. The
it,
numbers in the first period were dominant for Montreal. It wasn't just the end
yeah,
of the game where they dominated. They were dominant right from in the first period in both games as far as shots on goals, shots at goals, scoring chances, expected goals. Everything was significantly in their favor. Not just it wasn't like they just poured it on at the end. It was through the whole game.
yeah, that's
but
it. They didn't give
Shara
up.
was not
I
there.
Tampa Bay,
Berkshire was
Tampa
not
Bay.
there. So for me, man, you guys again, we're looking at the only positive side. No, we are a bad team right
No,
now. We don't play. What's the first line
we
yesterday? What is the
coach. We don't
ski
have
and
depth.
Caulfield and Sakaski yesterday? What is Patrick Lenny yesterday? We think we are great. We are not. We are not. The best player is Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher. So if we go set
Okay,
this, we did play well. You had not many passengers, but I just give you
There's a
that.
well
great
here's
What is Leonard saying
there's a great
yesterday
situation.
about that one over there? What's the mistake about Sakaski? What about the mistake about the young core during the weekend about that? I can go all the way like this. And what about Tobesh? Can I put a stop a puck? And we said, hey, was a good weekend for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think so. I think it's the real thing
there's a
right
gray
there.
there's a gray area there's a gray area between being good and being bad, or being great and being terrible. And I think the point I would like to make, and I think the point Enortap is making, is that these last two games were very different than the games in California. In that they showed a lot more. For me, they did. Obviously they struggled to finish, but again, when you have a game where you uh, outscoring, 40 scoring chances to 20, compared to your opponent. In the first period, 12-2, or sorry, 19-4 in the first period, scoring chances at 5-on-5 against Tampa Bay. So, again, it's not, I'm not suggesting they're great, and I'm not suggesting there's not a ton of work to do. And I'm not suggest, when you can't finish, that's a problem, and it's something that needs to be worked on. But at the same time, I don't think we're talking about the same team that we saw in October and November either. I don't think they've gone back to that level. Obviously they're not playing the way they did, from Christmas time to January the 20th or whatever. But they're just not at the same. How many times did we see them outshoot another team in October and November, let alone outshoot them by 15 shots? They outshot the Devils by 15, and they outshot the Lightning by 15, right? They didn't even have a game where they had more than 30 shots on goal for the first 2 months of the season. Like, it didn't even happen. And so again, I don't think either one of us is saying that this team is good and that this is where they want to be and whatever. Obviously that's not the case. But again, I think there's a lot of positive to take out of the last two games, certainly in comparison to the game in San Jose, and the game in San Jose wasn't terrible. The game in Anaheim and the game in Los Angeles certainly were not great. And again, but it's not an excuse to say that you can't finish. I mean, you've got to be able to finish, and that's what makes teams like Tampa Bay and New Jersey better than Montreal, is that they're veterans and they know how precious scoring chances are, and they take advantage of them. They're way more efficient at converting those scoring opportunities, whereas the Canadiens just aren't. They get a lot of chances, and it's been an issue. Even when they were playing well, there were games where the game against Chicago, right in the middle of that winning streak, that game in Chicago where they had 40 shots on goal and they couldn't finish. So I think there's a lot of room in between, where this team wants to be and being a really, really bad team like they were, in October. And I think they're somewhere in the middle of that right now. And they're not good, and there's not a lot of stuff. There is a lot of stuff to work on. But again, I think that there was a difference this weekend from my point of view. Anyway, there was a
See,
difference
yeah,
with the way they played.
our perspective should be from a perspective of a rebuilding team and where we are. We need to evaluate how are they progressing forward. If we were indeed a playoff team and they played the kind of game they did, I would agree with you 100%, coach. It's not that we're trying to make excuses and say, oh, isn't this whole world peachy keen for them, and they tried very hard. Like, of course they're not executing. They don't have the depth. They don't have the size yet to be a true contending team once the playoffs start, and they're nowhere close to being a playoff team at this point. But I think, and this goes part and parcel with the whole image of a rebuilding team and trying to evaluate your pieces and who fits in, right, and who doesn't. And now we're getting trade deadline time coming up, so you have to make some hard decisions at this point, right? Who, if you feel that there's players that don't fit your model going forward, then you're going to see that they're more than likely going to be traded at trade deadline time. And if not, then it'll be at the end of the year when free agency hits around. And it also gives you the perspective of, hey, where are our gaps? We need to address these gaps and go after those kind of players, be it through trade or UFA, whatever the case might be. But I mean, to knock them because they're, to say that their effort is not there, I would object to that, because I thought that they outplayed Tampa, but Tampa has more refined players. You give them one opportunity and they're going to score it. That one, weren't they 2 for 2 right off the bat? 2 errors made. They got their opportunity. They were up 2-0. And now all of a sudden you're chasing the game. You're behind 2-0. You're chasing the game. And I thought they did a great job to come back at the 3 what was it, 4-2 or 4-3 at one point they scored, and then they got the empty netter. So I think we have to remain patient. We have to stick to the blueprint that both Hughes and Gordon have set out. And that's going to take time. It's going to take it. There's going to be a lot of pain along the way. And like I always said, we're never as good as our best streak, and we're never as bad as our worst streak. So the answer is somewhere in between.
Here's the problem for me. There are meaningful games. This is a game they have to win this weekend. This is the game they have to perform and win those weekends.
Why?
And they fall apart.
Why do they have to win? Why do they have to win?
Why they have to win?
It's nice if they if they can win, that's great.
It's a meaningful game. They are meaningful games. If they want to see the goal of the team to stay in the mix until to the month of March and April, this is a must win. This is 4 points against Tampa Bay Lightning yesterday. Not only 2, 4 points.
But this is the first time.
What was Caulfield yesterday? What was
this is the first time these
What was Sekesky yesterday? They are the young core. What was Leonard City yesterday? They are the young core of your Montreal. I don't care if Anderson played well yesterday. I don't care if Gallagher played well. They are not the future of the Montreal Canadiens. The young core, when you play the meaningful game and you cannot perform at the next level, this is not what you're looking for. That will give some answer of the management of the Montreal Canadiens to see, okay, wait a minute. When we play big game, those players does not respond well. But this is a little bit more concern for the Montreal Canadiens. Could be that if they go all the way. This is where I believe there's a problem for the Montreal Canadiens. It's not about.
There's 2 problems with that. I mean, first of all, I think they have responded well. I don't think they played terribly. Second of all, this is the first time. Who was
Skis on the weekend? Who was Nick Skis on it? Nick Ski, how he was performing this weekend?
This is the first time these players have played meaningful games in their entire career. You can't throw somebody in the middle of the ocean and expect them to do.
Nick Ski did not play at the Memorial Cup.
Well, okay, is that the same thing as playing meaningful games in the NHL?
That's bigger at play again at Tampa Bay Lightning on Sunday afternoon at 1:00 p.m.
So if the Canadiens hadn't gone on the streak they went on between December 25th and January 20th, what would you be looking at these games the same way, or would you be looking at them differently? Like if they had never gotten quote unquote into the mix, would we just be saying, well, this is just the rebuild is just continuing on? This team is not a playoff
and so be the management will be disappointed to see that, because that was the goal purpose at the end of the end of the season.
But do you think right now the management is disappointed?
I'm sorry?
No.
Do you think management is disappointed with where this team is at right now?
The Montreal Canadiens right now, they have some good answer. What's going on with Kirby Dack? What's going on with Alex Nehuk? What's going on with
And that's what
the deep on the prospect, the response they don't have? What's going on? What's happening with the second center? What happening with the right defenseman that can go along like this? So they got some answer about the situation. But for me, this
This is
weekend,
precisely where this team wants to be
Suzuki
right
cannot respond to this weekend. One Caulfield is to go the last 13 game, and this is important game. This is what they have to show up. This is their team. This is the young core. This is what
but
they
the
are.
difference,
This is your
the
best player
difference,
you have right now. This is your best. This is the weekend they have to pop up to show up. They turn around everything, and they do like that. That's what is a
It's a
Gallagher, a Josh Anderson.
The playoffs mean nothing to this team. This is the playoffs means if this team doesn't make the
Did I
playoffs,
say
it
the
means
word?
absolutely nothing.
Did I say the word playoff, Devin? I said the word meaningful game.
Okay, but again, why are the games meaningful? The games are meaningful because they mean that you're in the playoff race. And so if they lose those meaningful games, it means that they don't make the playoffs. If they win meaningful games, they do make the playoffs. So the fact that they're playing meaningful games at all is the benefit right now. It's what this team wants to be doing, and they're playing those games. Are they responding the way you would want them to? No, but they're gaining experience from it. So next year when they're playing meaningful games, it won't be the first time they're playing meaningful games. They'll have that experience behind them, and they'll have that under their belt to know that, okay, this is what meaningful games feel like, and why we need to prepare even more, and we need to because these games are harder than they are in October, November, December. These are important games, gaining experience from all of this, right? This is like I said, you don't throw somebody in the ocean and expect them to swim like an Olympian on the first time they ever do it. And so for me, the reason why you want them playing meaningful games is not because you think they're a playoff team. The reason you want them to play meaningful games is because you want them to enjoy that experience. Just like you want the players in Laval to have the experience of going on a playoff run, because that'll be something that they can take with them later in their career, and it'll be something that they'll have under their belt when it comes time to play meaningful games down the road and in the future.
Yeah, and the objective, obviously, of course, it's always to try to win, but you have to look at it from a holistic point of view. And here, I mean, if you really want to look at it and you say, okay, well, they lost this game to Tampa Bay. Well, guess what? They played Tampa Bay 3 times this year and they beat them twice. To me, that's progression.
Well, wait a minute.
Like
He went. They win. Wait a minute.
about
Wait a minute. You want to talk about that way, or we reverse what you just said? What was the number? The
no.
height
I'm
and
just
No. Wait a minute. Because Devin, he point
okay.
this weekend. The Montreal beat the Tampa Bay Lightning because they have more chance of high danger scoring chance. We tell that. The game they lose 3-2. What was the chance, the scoring chance of the Tampa Bay versus Montreal?
It was the opposite of what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, Montreal had the higher.
That one. The 3 weeks they won, it was just a mirror, right? It was just something what they are not at the end of the day. If you look about this, by the way, 5 of those games are winning on the shootout or on the overtime. So at the end, I understand your point of view about that. But for me, yesterday, it's only weekend. One, you have your players like Caulfield, Suzuki, Sakaski. Those players have to step up to make that team to go that next level at the progression want to reach. This fall apart, in my opinion, during the weekend. This for me, this is what I feel like in Montreal did not do where they are. The young core. He take a Gallagher, he take an Anderson. They've been at the war for years in NHL. Then they know what it's all about. But again, the Zuski, they just floating again. They just not make an effort to play harder for the weekend to say, you know what, that's it. We stop this during the weekend. We're going to at least give everything. We're going to go everything. And I don't see that for those young core of the Montreal Canadiens during the weekend. That's what my point. That's what I said. My point about too many passengers during the weekend. Honestly, for the Montreal Canadiens, too many mistakes, and at the end cost the game for the Montreal Canadiens.
And it's also an
Montreal
evaluation. That's my whole point. It's about an evaluation period. It's not about it. I'm not trying to say that there shouldn't be accountability, or players shouldn't step up, or they should be satisfied with where they're at. Of course, they should be aiming for more and bring that intensity all along. but it's about evaluation, like I said earlier. And one thing we've learned for sure is right now we do not have the depth. We learned right away as soon as Heineman went off that fourth line due to that injury. We've tried different people at those positions. We've mixed up the lines, and nothing's happened in terms of anybody stepping up because that depth just isn't there right now. So it's an important period during the rebuild where you're learning about where you need to make certain addresses and evaluations about, and that means looking and saying, okay, this player consistently, that's the key word, not over a weekend or 5 games or 10 games, consistently does not step up. And therefore you say, okay, well, maybe this person is not our second centerman. We have to go this summer and look for that second centerman, or maybe we have to develop them from within the organization. And that's all I'm trying to say. Of course, you're trying to always win the game. You're trying to, make the playoffs if possible. But one thing we learned, like I said, if one player is not healthy on this team, they don't have the depth to replace that player.
Sorry, I'm catching up with the people. The shot is too fast. It's too fast to pass all the stuff like that. So, all right, let's move on with what we got. We have many things to talk about, so don't worry about the next subject. But if you look about, you stood out the obscure at the office. Let's go for the weekend, so we'll forget the two first game and the way it was not happened a lot against the Sharks and the Kings. So during the weekend, both game, how you feel? Have you stood out obscure and at the office? Enortap, let's go with you.
Okay, sure. First stood out. I mean, I'm gonna go. He didn't get any points yesterday, but I thought he played a very good game. Brought a lot of speed. He's just did not finish. That's the problem. But it was Josh Anderson for me. He had even a couple block shots. He was finishing off hits. We know he's playing injured. I think he had a total of just over 15 minutes of that he played. So he was effective in his role. Just didn't quite get the goal that at the key time that he needed, especially on a couple breakaways. And I believe he had a penalty shot as well in that game. So unfortunately, it didn't happen. But I thought he played a very good game. Obscure, I'm going to go with Christian Dvorak. He did score a goal against Tampa Bay, and I thought he was very effective with the faceoffs. I think he won 12 or 13 out of the 17 or so that he took. He also had 4 hits, was one of the leaders in hits on the team. And you notice him when he was on the ice. Like I thought that he made his presence quite known. Even had a couple block shots himself. So for me, he was the obscure. To the office, and again, just based on the fact that he was pulled from the game and he didn't look quite confident in the net. I would go with Dobesh. We've seen him play much better than what he did the last 2 outings that he's been in. He's much more technically sound than what he's shown in those 2 games. He seemed a little bit, I don't know, flustered, if flustered's the right word, or just insecure with himself, or lacking confidence, whatever the case might be. But I'll send him to the office for just these 2 games.
Devin, you can pick up the similar players. So, what I mean, like me and you, after that, it's hard sometimes to go along.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with Josh Anderson, but I think I'll go with Mike Matheson for stood out. I thought he had a good weekend. We don't give him enough credit when he plays well, and the fans tend to give him a little bit too much grief when he makes mistakes and struggles. So I'll give him his flowers and say that I thought he had a pretty good weekend. Both on, particularly I think in yesterday's game Sunday's game, I thought he played well, solid. Again, Mike Matheson is the kind of guy who, oftentimes his best games are the ones where you don't really notice him that much. And I thought he played quite well. My obscure is going to be a weird one, I think, because he only played one of the 2 games on the weekend, but I'm going to say Jaden Struble. I thought he had a really good game yesterday. I thought he looked real. I mean, obviously he didn't get a ton of ice time, But I thought he, for a guy who hasn't played a lot of hockey and was put into what could have been a very difficult situation, I thought he acquitted himself quite well in yesterday's game. I liked his game, and he didn't. Typically when we have players in that scenario, including himself in the past, that doesn't go very well when you've been in the press box for a few games, and then all of a sudden you're asked to step into the lineup. That's been something that Canadiens players have struggled with, and I thought he had a pretty good game yesterday. I thought he had more than a pretty good game. He was involved in the offense. He was very steady and solid on the defensive end, and
I think Devin
I was.
for what you just said, I think I agree with you. I think he didn't make mistake to make
Yeah.
him a bad game. That's what he keep this simple. So I think that's I
Yeah.
agree for your statement about the game was trouble. Play about 40 minutes, but he did not do any bad things on
Yeah.
the ice.
And that's when guys like him do really well, when they keep it simple, right? We see that with Arbor Jackeye, right? Earlier in the year he was trying to do too much, and when you just keep it simple, he and again, I thought it was nice because I think that kid's had a rough go. I think he's played well at times this year, and kind of maybe didn't get recognized for it, and I just thought it was really nice to see him do well yesterday. At the office, I think I've got to go with Dobesh as well. And again, it's not. I mean, obviously, you can't. I don't expect the kid to play the way he did in the first 4 or 5 games for the rest of his career. I know there were people out there that were comparing him to Ken Dryden, and there were people who wanted him to be the number 1 goalie after 4 games in the NHL and whatever. I wasn't one of those guys. I figured that there would come a step backwards. And again, so the at the office would be more about, okay, man, just stick with your game, stick with your process. You're fine. You had a bad game. Everybody has bad games. But yeah, I would say for me, the at the office would be Dobesh, and it would be more as a reset than necessarily a punishment or anything like that. But yeah, I would go with Matheson, Struble, and Jakob Dobesh.
Good point.
I left a little bit of meat on the bone for you, Coach, I think.
Yeah. So I have to go with Gallagher. I understand Josh Anderson what he did right during the weekend. I appreciate that. But Gallagher, I think he pop up, he show up as a warrior. He's been that way, and he wore that jersey for many years. But he played for the logo, and I think he want to fire up the rest of the team at some point. So I play his role. So I think I have to go with stood out. The obscure is a little bit, you know, not easy to find an obscure on the weekend. Montreal Canadiens, and you look about this. I think I feel more Josh Anderson as an obscure. He have 0 point, right? He have 0 points on the weekend. He has 0 point for the last week, but 10 shots on the net. Everything you just described, both of you, about Josh Anderson, he did that. So for me, I would put him more as an obscure because he's not on the score sheet, but he did the details of the game. So it's good to see him bounce back. I don't know if you have to find sometime like the 4 star of the year or the player have a bounce back year. I think Josh Anderson, in my opinion, should be one of the top 5 nomination in NHL this season for sure. At the office, we have too many for me to get there. But I have to go with Nick Zuski on that one. He need to lead the team all the way, in my opinion. He need to show up. He be the responsible accountability. I can go all the way like that. This is a weekend for me. Yeah, I think, he need to. It's a weekend where it's more about the family weekend, right? The Sunday afternoon, you bring your kids there. You have them to have a good time. You turn that. They see 2 penalty shot, by the way. That's something unique, but that's happening with Beck and Josh Anderson. But I need more for Nick Zuski. They have a great year so far. He's still the plus, I believe. But during the last couple of games, and I think for the most important thing at the weekend where they have to figure out, because honestly, Martin St. Louis, he did something this weekend where he don't see. He's more patient usually. He wait a little bit longer. He can forgive something. But this weekend he did not. He benched Hudson at some point. He benched at some point Sakaski, churned the line, everything like that. And he want to win this weekend. Why? Because him he see a little bit longer. Um, the mission of the weekend, for us, for Martin St. Louis, if we can win, we're only 4 points. we sit in the mix. It will be harder for the management to make a move. With 6 point out and the way they play 1-7-1 the last 9 games, it's more easy for Ken Hughes to sit with Martin Saint and say, look, I understand what you want to accomplish. I understand you want to finish strong your 26 game, but we have this to do. And for what happening during the weekend in the last couple of games, I think we have to go that direction. So Martin Sui does not have enough to tell them and respond to him. So that's part of the game. But I think Martin Sui want to win more game during the weekend because he knew what's going to happening after the weekend. It was the weekend of the sailor, buyer, or wait a little bit longer. And Montreal Canadiens, I believe, are 5 or 6 games before the trade deadline. But I think he's going to have some kind of activities on the 2 weeks off for both the team. When I said that, at least talking, looking, and see what could happen. So, I think tomorrow night we're going to talk about Marco, but I think you, Devin, and Enortap is going to be agree with me. The fact you have many teams in the mix, right? Like Rangers are still in the mix with 5 points behind of the, so maybe something like that. They're going to make some move. Detroit could be another one. I think like Utah, maybe a little bit far, but not too far. Maybe they can make some moves. So we're going to have a lot of activities, I believe, for the next couple of days and weeks before the trade deadline this year to see some kind of team want to get pushed without destroy what they have already. But Montreal getting in because what happens on the weekend, I'll become now a settler team, in my opinion. And let's move on for the next ones and go to get a bit more deeper. But Montreal getting now have a record of 25, 26, 6 points, 55 points. They are 7th in 6 division. They are 13, but equal with Pittsburgh Penguins and the Flyers with 1 game in hands, and they are 23rd in the standing, where they are right now at the bottom 10 or the flip of the bottom 10. So we have to see what it could happen for them. But talk about this, Mr. Enortap. The record now is 1-7-1 in the last 9 games. The goal differential is 18 versus 37. It's a goal differential of minus 17. It's cold over there. The young struggling. Leonard's an example. Tobert 031, 4.00 plus. First line, where are they? Laney and Sakowski struggling, and the defenseman core all overall are struggling. Send Cody left, and they try to fix the best pairing. And maybe you can tell me that Devin or Enortap was the best pairing, but I didn't see a lot from them. And their bad execution and decision making, turnover, giveaway puck, cannot win the battle. I can go all the way like that. That's the reason they are 1-7-1. So this is a penny for that. But what you see that the 1-7-1, what you see for the Montreal Canadiens, Devin?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Canadiens are missing sort of that consistent lineup on a night. I mean, remember when they got Alexandre Carrier, what we talked about, right? It wasn't necessarily just about what he brought to the lineup. It was how he sort of cemented the entire lineup, right? He allowed Goulet to move back to his strong side, so he kind of cemented that defensive core, and he allowed everybody to be in their right chair, and so and now it just seems like one guy or two guys come out of the lineup. Emil Heineman, a fourth liner, Caden Goulet, obviously a really important, but it's just thrown the entire lineup in a disarray, right? We talk about the first line. Well, last night Slavkovsky gets taken off that first line and slid down the lineup. Patrick Laine is playing on the fourth line. There's not, those taking those elements out of the lineup doesn't just hurt, because you're missing that one particular player. It reverberates through the entire lineup, right? And that's kind of what I kind of feel like is happening a little bit. So when we talk about the first line struggling, yeah, they're struggling, but they're struggling, because Slavkovsky's maybe, not playing that great. And then all of a sudden he's being shifted down to the third line. The second line is struggling, and that's, Laine is dealing with, confidence issues, and he's moving off that line, and then all of a sudden, I think that I think we can say that Doc and Newhook have been pretty good, especially relative to the way they were earlier in the season. So again, it's just, I feel like they're just so close, right? And I feel like the fact that they did so well for that 5-week period is, in a way, it's almost a curse, because now the expectations are that much higher. So again, I mean, I'm probably not explaining myself very well here, but it's just like, I feel like the team is just sort of, treading water, or sort of like in a spin cycle a little bit right now, where, they're kind of fighting against themselves. And again, we're back to that mental aspect of the game and the winning habits, and teaching these guys how to be winners. And again, I do feel like the team has progressed significantly from where they were in October and November. But again, I don't think that they've gone back to sort of that losing mentality that they might have had earlier in the season. But again, I feel like they're just on the edge of being able to do. And again, it's just, you see it in the structures. Marco said it in the comment section, right? The reason, they stopped winning when they stopped, playing well in their own defensive zone and creating turnovers. And I mean that, they just were more like a well-oiled machine when they had everybody running. And then all of a sudden you take Heineman out of the lineup, and that well-oiled machine isn't as well-oiled as it used to be. And then you take Gouli out of the lineup, and that machine isn't as well-oiled as it used to be. And now you've got to introduce new guys into the lineup, and they're maybe not up to par with those other guys, and they're not used to being part of that well-oiled machine. And then all of a sudden, because Michael Pezzetta isn't able to sort of just step into the lineup seamlessly and take over for Heineman, now all of a sudden, he can only play 4, 5, 6 minutes a game. Now, you've got a double shift, Cole Caulfield or Nick Suzuki, and it throws off the rhythm. And it's just, it just feels like they're just out of rhythm a little bit right now. And, Caden Gouli comes out of the lineup, and now you've got to bring, Struble in, or you've got to bring Mayu in. And, obviously they don't bring the same elements that Caden Gouli does. And now guys are having to play on their, Lane Hudson has to play on his off wing now, or on his offside now. And it just kind of like throws things off that little tiny bit. So again, the comparison I made to Carrier coming, and how he sort of cemented everything and allowed everybody to sort of, move into the proper, into their proper roles and their proper chair. Now all of those guys are now kind of like popped out of their proper chair, and they're kind of sitting on the chair with one ass cheek on the chair and one ass cheek off the chair. And they're not really, they're and then just, you can see it, right? You can just see it on the ice. It's not as smooth, and it's not as like the D zone coverage is not as smooth. Creating turnovers in the neutral zone is not as smooth. It's just fallen that half a step backwards, where it makes enough of a difference that the team has gone from a team that can win in this league against anybody to a team that struggles to get across the finish line. And I know that was probably a little bit rambly, but I just feel like they're just like that little tiny bit off because of that. And again, as you said earlier, Enortap, it's, they don't have the depth, right? Heineman comes out of the lineup. They don't have a guy that they can bring in who will be like step right in seamlessly and take over that job and be that guy. Like, he can be another Emil Heineman. They have to bring in Pezzetta, who, sat
you
in the
don't think Owen Beck is not def enough for Montreal Canadiens?
He is. I think he is, and I think he's shown that. But again, I think it took him 5, 6, 7 games to get to the point where he is now. Like, those first few games, again, I think he's very good, and I think he can be very good. But again, I don't think he was right away. I don't think he was good enough to replace everything that Emil Heineman brought to the game immediately. Right? Like, right. Don't get me wrong. I think he's played really, really well. Probably
he played only 5 games. So the first 2 games, I agree with you, was not a factor. But I think it was really better at Michael Pezzetta. My point behind that, it's not about Owen Beck. Yeah. Honestly, it's about the management. I think did not act properly to fix the problem of element depth. That's my point behind that. And Devin, you can bring under the play if you want to, like Davidson or something else, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think for me,
Or
this is the
Kandata.
biggest problem for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, on the depth you talk about, I think the right defenseman Montreal is struggling right now on the depth. Like they don't have.
Yeah, Gouli, I think, was a bigger issue. Missing
Yeah,
Gouli,
yeah,
I think, was a bigger issue.
exactly. It's a
Yeah,
top
Yeah,
pair
big time.
link
absolutely.
versus the 4 line for the
Because
Montreal.
Gouli losing Gouli basically undoes everything that you benefited by getting Alexandre Carrier, right? Like
And then
losing him just eliminates that entire, any benefit you got from getting Carrier, is
Oh yeah.
undone by losing Gouli.
But
And
But
and and
before
and,
that,
and more maybe.
yeah, before that, you add more. I want to ask you one question for Devin, because I think you bring a lot of things. Like you said, you zigzag, but I think that was not zigzag. You bring a lot of point, and I want to refer you one thing, and I want you to answer this question. You said earlier, your statement said they play better compared to October and November. Completely agree with you. But if I want you to bring now more, you feel Montreal Canadiens are better today, and I understand some improve. I understand that, but as a team and where they are today, for the management, for the coach, and for the players, are better today compared like 1 year ago, um, where they are maybe 3 point or more. Everything like that. Do you feel they are better? Because the beginning, I think they played the worst hockey you cannot imagine as a hockey team October, November. I think we was expect to play at that level. I think they play better now because honestly, it was really bad. But do you think that you feel like they are better today compared 1 year ago?
Yeah, I do. And I agree with you completely that the first 2 months of this season were probably worse than the last 2 months of the season, let's say, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's probably right. Yeah, and I think I do think they are better. I think they have more. I think they have more winning habits now than they did then. Um, I feel like they're a team that's more mature. I mean, obviously they've got more experience now. I feel like individually, guys like Cole Caulfield are better. I don't think that Uri Slavkovsky is as good right now as he was obviously the last 2 months of last season. He's obviously not playing at that same level. Um, but again, I think overall, I think they are a better team right now than they were last year at this same time. Again, it's winning habits. It's like being able to recover from adversity, being able to respond when they're not giving up those 2 or 3 goals in succession. Even now with the recent losing streak, I don't see them. They're not doing that. So I do see that there's a big difference between last January, February versus this October, November. Again, I would say that they are better now than they were last year. They're significantly better than they were in October and November, I guess.
Okay, good stuff. And after that, I know you can fly with everything like that, but when you look about the 171, I think I put a couple of great things there. Maybe I forget something. Of course, it's not perfect, but how you feel about that? What it pay you a little bit more attention about the 171, and what maybe worry more, or what you not big concern.
yeah, there's definitely a reason to have some concern, but I think Devin eloquently went over some of the reasons why it's at that. Like I was more concerned at the beginning of the year with the bad streak that they had there. Not so much the fact that they were losing. Of course, that's always an issue, but it's the manner in which they were losing. It seemed like once they fell behind, let's say 2-0, it's almost like they threw the white flag on the ice and just disappeared the rest of the way and would allow games to get out of control in a quick fashion. Or sometimes within the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the game, they would allow 4 or 5 goals. Same concept. When they were winning and had that streak that they went well and got themselves into the so-called proverbial mix, to me, it was all about the fact that they were healthy. They were able to roll 4 lines, even though the second line was not performing at the level that it should be. There was a lot to be desired there. The third and the fourth line was compensating for that, and the first line was doing what you would expect them to do. Defensively, they were finally getting into the proper structure of how to play. They had the forwards coming back and helping. And as Devin said, Coach, the moment you got a couple players out, like Heineman, and more specifically, I think Gooley, it just threw everything out of whack. And the young kids can't, like, you bring in a back in Mayu. I thought, they were quite good for the few games and minutes that they played, but it's a big ask of them to come in and just take over and fit in seamlessly with the structure you had going, and the momentum you had going, the chemistry with the players that you had going, your line mates. So that, to me, that's been the big issue. But when you look at it again from a holistic point of view and you compare it to where they were at last year, I do see that there has been some progression, and it's really, I think this year, so far, it's given the management the opportunity to evaluate which direction to go with, in terms of players, free agents, in terms of who to let go in 2 or 3 weeks from now. So we'll see where it takes us, but overall, I would say it's at least we're moving in the right direction.
Good point about that.
What's the expression we hear all the time, Enortap? Right? Development is not linear.
Yeah, absolutely. And impatience is the killer of every rebuild.
I think we got a couple in store for the 171. First of all, we can see Tobash. Maybe it would be benefit for him to returning in American Hockey League at some point. Not right away, but I think that give us a little bit answer. I think also you have a couple answers. Since the beginning of the season, Doc, maybe not a center. They have to reevaluate his case. We'll go talk about a little bit later about that situation for him. Honestly, the lack of the 171 for me, I put this on the first line. The productivity of the first line is not there, and you need them. You need that line. It's just an extra bonus, and I think the reason why they were looking good for the last 3 weeks, the mirror of the 3 weeks they performed well, Devin and Enortap, is because the 4 line have 34 points in 5 weeks, where usually you don't have those kind of productivity at any moment in NHL, and that would change everything. Um, it's sad to say that the first line because they have a good year. You talk about Caulfield is what 20 goals.
Yeah, it's 26 goals,
So
49
he's on the
points.
pace almost like 38, 42 goals. If he consider performing, he's only to go for last 13 games. About Nick Ski was 1 point per game since the beginning of the season. He's in the place, but the last 6, 7, 8 games where he was doing a great job again the opening line for the team like Florida, Tampa Bay, Colorado, I call all the way. They got beat every game right now, the first line. And the lack of the excuse me, the lack of the second ski performance make that first line also struggling put it together. Um, you know, decision. I think for me, second ski, the regulation for me is decision making. This decision making is not there allowed compared last season. This is a little bit my red flag for second ski. So for me, I put this me on honestly. Yes, the defenseman core, the fact Cody is not there, but at some point, they have to regroup, right? And they have to play more tight together. They have to cut up more in front of the net. But many times, they get a goal again. It's more about the decision making and the defensive zone. Losing battle to the wall. Like Lenny can put the puck outside the zone at some point. Lenny go from the board, go all the way to the corner to follow his man. That open up completely the right shoulder, and they have a goal right there. And they can go away. Like battle, win a battle on the board. The 1 versus 1 decision making guys. 2 versus 1. Jekai go on the wrong side. Throw ball last game. But Lennartson make a turnover at the blue line again. A couple of times happening again. Lennartson the last 9 games. This is the reason why they are the Montreal Canadiens. But that's the real thing.
That affects the offense too, right? Like if you're not creating turnovers in your own end or in the neutral zone, you're not
still
creating
use up.
transition offense.
You
You're not
still
creating
use
a
up.
transition offense, and that's the bread and butter of that first line, right? That's their bread and butter. Creating the
Yeah.
turnover in the defensive zone and quickly moving the puck up and getting those
But
2
my
on
point
ones
behind
and 3
that,
on
they
2.
went to follow you point of view. I will say to you, the first line did not create a lot of opportunities overall.
Yeah.
They have a flash of one game. Again, the Sharks, I believe, have one to go right there. But the way they play the last 9 games was not the same play they played since the beginning of the season. But you're right. When you don't have the puck,
They're getting opportunities once they get the puck in the other team zone. They're getting opportunities and they're playing, but they're just not getting nearly as many opportunities because they're not creating those turnovers in their own zone or in the neutral zone. And that quick transition play is what they live on. That's their lifeblood.
yeah. We'll see what happening. We're going to move on. We have a couple of more subjects to move on. The big subject was honestly seller. We go around a bit more, but the people need to know a bit more. I think we have a good subject to talk about. And we're going to start with that part for the Montreal Canadiens in our top. There are 5 players, honestly, they can sell because they are UFA. Evans, Armia, Savard, Pesada, Edeborak. And I'm going to give you my theory at the end of both of you comments about that. And honestly, the biggest question is Jake Evans. And this coming during the weekend after the game, I don't know what the Devils like. Yeah, maybe the Lightning. Honestly, was yesterday. And when he mentioned on the pass, he was proud to wear that jersey and everything like that. Then he changed a bit to be a little bit more the present. But negotiation is very important for the Jake Evans. And I want to mention you and Devin, and maybe split if you want to. But the value of Jake Evans, what do you expect in return? And deal or no deal, what are the negotiations right now? Do you have some number between both? What it would be more important to have Jake Evans in the team or not? So a little bit more goes from, they give you a bit more the preview of the situation for Jake Evans. So I want to hear a little bit more in our tap. It take enough for one thing. I want to share it with you. If you look about the agent of the Jake Evans, it's a guy from the West Canadian. He have only 2 customers in NHL. Dylan DeMelo and Jake Evans. So what's the point behind that? Is because you want to make a name behind that. And the percentage to make money in our tap is 3 or 4% of an NHL contract for the agent. So my point behind that is nobody, if he was like we almost said Scott Borisler, but he's not. He's not in hockey. He's in baseball. But if you want to talk about, geez, the guy from Los Angeles that play with Le Capital for the
Shohei
I have
Ohtani?
a white. I have a old right there. Brisson, Pat Brisson. It will not be the same, right? It will be. Don't worry about that. You know what I mean? Like whatever. I have a $500,000 less. No big deal. But this is a key measure also negotiation for Jake Evans. So there you go. In our top, you can talk about the situation with Jake Evans.
Well, with Jake Evans, it's quite simple. I mean, he's obviously a valuable player for Montreal. We've seen a solid year out of him. I think he's at around 27, 28 points so far, even though, his last 6 or 7 games, there hasn't been much from a statistical point of view, but everything else he does out there is always 100%, right? He's killing penalties, blocking shots, taking key face-offs, and for the majority of the time, has a over 50% winning percentage on those. It's never been an issue. Do we want or don't want Jake Evans? Of course, every team wants somebody like a Jake Evans. He's the perfect fit as a 3C or even a 4C if you're already strong up the middle. But it's always been, and again, I would even say not as much the money, but for me, it's been the term. All right. And I can totally understand his perspective. This is his opportunity to try to cash in one last big check payoff for him. If Montreal is offering, let's say let's suppose his salary gets doubled and he's offered 3.5 million. But I'm sure Hughes would probably not go the distance with the term. He's probably trying to get away with 3, maximum 4 years. Well, if he figures, or his agent is advising him, that he can get a 7-8 year contract somewhere else, at least at 3.5 and possibly even 4 million, then he has to start looking at it from the perspective of setting himself up for his family and himself, and as much as he loves being here, he's going to take the option to leave. And Montreal has to be careful that you don't play the game where you start to fall in love with your player, and you come up with a bad contract, which then could cripple you once they hit a certain age or a part of that contract. You might not feel it the first 3 or 4 years, but if you sign him to an 8-year contract and you sign him for, let's say, $4 million, it's not going to age very well for the team, and it's not going to fit into the plan that both Hughes and Gordon have set up for where this team should be in the future. So if the numbers are too daunting from Montreal's perspective, I say no deal. You move on.
Devin?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I'll do is, as a lawyer, I'll give you some insight on, I agree with you. This agent may be looking to make a name for himself, but at the end of the day, Jake Evans drives the bus, right? Like, as a lawyer, you can certainly recommend things to your client. You can certainly advise your client. But if your client says to you, "I want to stay in Montreal and I want you to make it work," then you have no choice but to do that, right? The lawyer doesn't make the decision. The agent doesn't make the decision. The player makes the decision. Now, that said, agents can carry a lot of sway when it comes to their clients as well. But again, you make a great point, Enortap. I think there's no question that Montreal wants to keep him. I also don't think that there's really any question that Jake Evans wants to stay in Montreal. The question is, can they find a dollar amount that is agreeable or beneficial to both sides? And so, what's his value, or what's his value? What should Montreal pay him, or what's his value in a trade? I think is made even harder based. I see the announcement that was made, or the I don't know what you want to call it, but the announcement that was made last week or 2 weeks ago about the cap going up, right? And what the projected cap will be, in the next 3 or 4 years, I think throws all of this into a bit of a tailspin, because what we thought his value would have been before that now maybe changes, right? Like, now maybe Jake Evans is looking at that and saying, well, if the cap is going to go up $15 million in the next 4 years, then maybe I'm worth more than $3 million a year, or $2.5 million a year, or whatever it might be. And on the other hand too, the other teams might be looking at him and saying, well, now his value has changed from our perspective as well. So, I don't know what his value is. And I think that at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to how much does he want to stay in Montreal, and is he willing to give Montreal a bit of a discount? Because I think realistically, he probably can get more money somewhere else. But the question becomes, is that, to his benefit, to go somewhere else? And I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think that do I think Jake Evans is worth a first rounder? No, probably not. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I do think he's probably worth a first rounder, but I don't think they'll get that for him. Do I think the Canadiens should pay him more than $3.5 million a year? No. Do I think they should pay him? Again, you and I and Enortap, I think disagree on term. I don't have a problem giving him longer term if the salary is lower. Like, I don't mind giving him 4 or maybe even 5 years if he's going to take, a lower salary. But again, I just think that the whole situation is thrown into a tailspin a little bit by the fact that the cap, appears to be, going up at such a substantial rate over the next 2 or 3 years. So again, I know that's a bit of a non-answer, So, I mean, if you want a real answer from me, I would say that his value in the market right now probably is a second round draft pick or something of equivalent value. And I think that his salary value is probably $3 million at 4 years for the Canadiens, and maybe more than that, maybe $3.5 million.
But here's the thing, Devin. To be honest with you, I don't think Montreal goes for it if it's a second rounder. Not because it's not good. It's they have enough picks. That's not the issue. I think the key phrase right now is this hybrid selling that they're going to be going into is the phrase that they're going into. And what they're really looking for, I believe, is prospects rather than the picks. They value that a lot more. So if they can get, let's say, a decent young prospect that will fit into the organization, whether it's this year or possibly at the latest next year, that fits in seemingly into the lineup, that's, I think, what they're going to try to go for. And a team that's, threatening to be a Stanley Cup champion team will probably have that kind of an asset to give.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that completely. And I think realistically, in order to do that, they probably need to package him, right? Like they'll probably have to do Jake Evans and a pick, or Jake Evans and Yoel Armia, or Jake Evans and Christian. Like I don't think Jake Evans on his own will bring a prospect of any real significance or a guy who has real opportunity to play in the NHL. But I mean, if you package Evans with Armia, or if you package Evans with a second round draft pick, then you can look at, bringing in a guy who's, 23, 24 years old, who, maybe, either is a project, a high end prospect who's a project, or a medium range prospect who, may or may not work out. I agree with that completely. Yeah, I think you're right. They're not looking for draft picks unless it's another draft pick where they're thinking that maybe, if we get another, low or high first round pick or low second round pick, we can package that together with what we already have and move up in the draft or something like that. Like if they have something like that in mind, maybe, but I agree with you completely. I mean, draft picks are not there. They don't want to be drafting, 8 players, 9 players this year in the draft.
That's exactly what Arizona has done over the years, right? And now Utah, like they've acquired all these picks, and it's not working out well because, first of all, you can't sign them all eventually. Right. You have just those fixed amount of contracts you can give out. And second of all, you're never building on anything positive. It's just you're recycling the same process over and over. So it doesn't lead to progression in the end.
A lot of good point, a lot of good things in the chat. Also, a lot of great conversation every time that. At the time you was talking, I'm watching 2-1 against 6 minutes to go remaining. Boston College, Boston University, by the way. But here's what I want to talk about, both of you, and I want to see another way. If you're on the table and you are the agent of Jake Evans, what can you sell him to the team to make a player over $4 million per year?
To Montreal or to an opposing
any team in NHL?
Well, I mean, I think your job as an agent is to get, the best offer for your player.
Yeah, but when you go to the table, right? You bring, information, right? So it'd be like a salary arbitration, right? You have information, you have to sell your players to the team. Say, look, that's what he does. That's what he's good. Look his number.
Yeah.
Look his speed. But what Jake Evans have to mention that to the team? Like, what is so good? What are good to show to the team? He deserves the $4 million. That's my question.
He's pretty much an all utility kind of player. We saw it yesterday. Right. They threw him on the first line, and he wasn't out of position. I mean, it's not something you want to do for the long run, obviously, But in a pinch, in a game, sometimes an injury takes out a player and you need to bring somebody up the lineup, he can do that. He can play, he's a specialist kind of guy. He can play the power or the penalty
Yeah,
kill
but in our
and be
time, you talk
very
about
effective.
5 minutes. You're not going to negotiate this on the table.
No. What you do is you bring in comparables, right? You look at other
But my
players
point
that
behind that in our time is this: you cannot talk about the
yeah,
number of goal, then talk about the number of assists, then talk about the number of the point. He's been in NHL, right, as a four-liner for all his career. He played an approximately 12,
yeah.
13, for 13 minutes per game. He played in the rebuild team for the last 3 seasons. Right? He's not to be a part of the best team in NHL. His role would be different if he was playing with the New Jersey Devils. His role would be very different. He would not play in the top 6 in the top. You will have
No, I
someone
agree.
else. Yeah, you want to
No,
use
but
Dawson
I'm
Mercer
not
on the third
suggesting.
line.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm
He's
not
very-
No,
suggesting
but
that.
he's very
but-
good. He's very good at what he does, and
But is
Yeah.
it good
we
enough,
all know.
Devin? Okay, I agree with you. Is it
What
good
you
enough to
sell,
bring a $4 million on that level?
No, but the point is this. I think the point is that there's always, history tells us that there's always a team out there that's willing to do something that doesn't make sense, right? There's
Okay,
always a
perfect.
team out there.
Okay, Devin. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And after you too, right? Said that. Why the Montreal have to give him that kind of money?
They don't,
I don't
and
think
I don't think they
Montreal does.
will. And I think
Yeah.
that's why we haven't seen a contract, right? Is that they're
Okay,
not
so
willing.
Devin,
They're
what
not
would be
willing
the
to give him that
max?
crazy money.
Perfect. What would be the max you can give to Jake Evans?
For me, it would be 3.5 maximum.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I would say for me the most would be I would give him 3.5 times 3, or I would give him like 3 or 3.25 times 4 or 5.
So I
If
would
he's
say to
willing,
you,
if he's
Devin, he
willing
would
to go
not
4 or 5
accept.
years, I go.
Jake Evans would not accept a deal of 3 years or less. He would not. It's the agent will refuse that. Devin,
Yeah,
I could be wrong
Well,
here.
get
The
it
BU
depends.
just
It
score a
depends
goal.
on how
You're
much
right.
he wants to stay.
You're
It
right.
depends on how
You're
much
right.
he wants to stay, right? It depends on how much value he puts on staying with the team. Whether he's loyal to the team because of the fact that they stuck by him, and allowed him to make his way to the NHL. Whether he feels like he wants to be a part of what's happening in Montreal, whether he loves to live in the city as much as he says he does. It depends on what value he puts on that, right? And I agree with you. I think that his agent will go out and get him an offer from another team that will be better than what Montreal will give him. But the
That
question becomes, how much does he want to stay here? And is the difference between the offer that Montreal makes to him and the offer that another team makes to him, is the difference enough that he says, well, okay, I'm willing to give up or give away the stuff that I love about Montreal and go somewhere else, or do I want to stay? Like that's the agent's job. The agent is going to go out and get the best offer for him, and he's got to sit down and look at that offer and decide whether it's enough for him, because he will get a better
And
offer somewhere else. He will,
so,
yeah,
for
he
sure.
probably will. A
good
lot
point
of
about
teams
that.
make
I think
mistake.
that reminds me two things, Devin, and I think you could tell me I could disagree, but it's going to be location players for the team going to trade for him, and after that,
Yep.
he's going to be on the market to get trade, and he'll be on the UF3 after that to get a maximum. That will find me in a situation with JD Comfort with the Canada Avalanche and Enortap, and that was remind
Yeah,
me a little bit what happened with Andrew Copp with the Winnipeg Jets to trade to the
that's right.
Rangers, and the
And
Detroit
Detroit.
signed both of them. And honestly, the money they make is not the value of who they are right now with that team, but the
And
role
it's
is a little bit like that. And I think for Ken Hughes, he honestly, guys, I'm going to say that the number will tell me after that. But I think Ken Hughes is offer is 3 million and lower.
Yeah, maybe.
possibly. I could
I,
see
The
that.
one
I
thing,
think
I will say that I know for sure about all of this is that Kent Hughes is not going to get, like, he's not going to get fleeced. He's not going to get screwed over. He's not going to get out negotiated.
And
He's not going like
he's not going to be put off the tracks of where he wants
no.
to go with the team.
He's not going to
That's
sign. He's not going to sign Jake Evans to a contract that we're going to look back at and say, oh my God, what the hell was Kent Hughes thinking? He's going to make a deal, if there's a deal to be made. He's going to make a deal that works for Montreal, or he's going to let Jake Evans go. And we're going to hear that Jake Evans signed somewhere for like $4.5 million. And it's going to be a situation where we're like, oh, Jesus Christ, we couldn't possibly have signed him at that amount, right? That's kind of what I see. Like Kent Hughes is not going to get out negotiated here. He's not going to get fleeced. He's not going to get beat up. He's like, it's not going to happen.
No, you're absolutely right about that. And I will add one more thing about this, right? The people we question that part a little bit later. Are we sign him for 500,000 more or not? Like a bit like happening with Philippe Dano at some point we're gonna do live everything like that. But we'll see what's happening. We're gonna talk more about Jake Evans tomorrow, but I think we get a lot of good comments from you, both of you, about Jake Evans. So let's move on with the next two players, Amir and Sabar. So we're not going to talk about negotiation, but talk about what you feel, what you're going to be at the trade deadline. Are you going to trade them? Yes or no? And not and if you keep them, don't tell me the contract. Just tell me if you resign them, if you resign at them or not. One of the two, honestly, or not at all. So, and I'll start with that.
Well, again, when you look at the two players involved, you shouldn't, again, fall in love with your own players. You have to evaluate them for where they're going to fit in the future with your organization. Now, we've said in the past about Savard, we've seen a definite degeneration of his game over the last year, mostly in his skating. He was never the greatest of skaters, but it's a little bit more noticeable this year. It takes him a little bit longer to get to the puck and do some of the things that he was more effective at before. But I mean, he's still part of the glue of that defensive core, right? You would love for him to stay and at least mentor some of the younger kids that are there. But if the opportunity comes up that a team is really hungry for a second or third, more likely a third pairing defenseman that plays the right side and can be a penalty killer and be an effective one at a relatively good price, they're going to jump all over this, right? So with Savard, it's more something like you might want to pursue him down the road if he comes back as some kind of coach or assistant or something to that effect, where he has a specialized role to work with the young kids. If because I know he loves being here, so that would be something that fits nicely, but not as part of the team going forward. Armia, obviously, ever since last year, I mean, when he came back from Laval. He's been playing, relatively well. This year he's got about 24, 25 points, which is respectable. He's strong on the puck. He's got some size. He's not afraid, to use his body. But again, I don't think he's really part of the future. So again, if you get a deal that makes a lot of sense, then you have to look. This is part of the cleansing that they need to do. They need to get rid of some of these contracts so that they have a hefty amount of money in their system so that they can build the team or fill in the gaps with the players that they need to in order to be legitimate playoff team that can hopefully down the road go far.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of that. I mean, frankly, for me, I don't think it really would bother me either way if they stayed or left. I wouldn't be upset if they were both still on the team after the trade deadline. I wouldn't be upset if they were both gone. I think that, you bring up, I mean, again, I'll repeat some of your points that you made, Enortap. Again, Savard, I think, brings value to another team in that he's a, right-handed defenseman with Stanley Cup experience who, can play the role of mentor and can, go out and give you 10, 12, 13 minutes on a third pairing on any given night for any team in the NHL, and he's really good that way. Armia, I think, has played well this year. I think he has value in his game. He's big, he's strong, he's physical when he's playing, the way that he's capable of, and he's shown that for Montreal. So again, I don't have any issue with either one of those guys. staying with the team, if they're still with the team for another year. I mean, I particularly see Savard. I think Savard would be an option if he did stay with the team. I think he would be an option as your seventh defenseman, right? Would you rather have a guy like, I think Savard would be a guy who could come in, to spell somebody in your top six defense, or like he would do better than he's a guy who could sit in the press box for a week or two and then come in and play one game and be okay.
Whereas, and you wouldn't worry, Devin, that you're doing that player an injustice because they're young and they're not developing like Struble.
Correct. And not only that, not only are you not doing them a disservice, but you're also, Savard will be a professional and he'll come in and he'll give you 8-10 minutes and he'll stand in that position and he'll be fine and you'll be okay and he won't make mistakes. No, he's not going to score a goal and he's not going to make any great spectacular plays, but he'll come in and play a solid 8 or 10 minutes for you. And that's the kind of guy you want to have in that seventh defenseman role, as opposed to a Pezzetta or a Jaden Struble or a Justin Barron. You don't want Justin Barron sitting in your press box for, 3 weeks at a time. So again, and again, all the things you brought up about Savard being, a mentor and loving Montreal and becoming, perhaps a coach someday for this team, or being, somehow involved in the organization. I agree with all of that. Armia, similar situation. I think Armia obviously has value. He's still younger than people think he is. He still has a lot of years ahead of him. But again, when Armia's game is on, I think he brings a certain element that, certainly, any playoff team would like to have a guy like Armia on their third or fourth line when he's playing the way he's capable of. So, getting back to the, for me, it's a scenario where I wouldn't be upset either way with either of these two guys. If the Canadiens went into 25-26 with Armia and Savard in the lineup, I'm okay with that. If they're both gone, I'm okay with that too. So, again, it's a, and I think that Kent Hughes probably feels the same way, and it's an enviable position to be in for him, in that, the world isn't going to turn on whether or not he makes a deal for either of these two guys. So, so he can wait for that deal that makes sense for the team. He can, he doesn't have to say, okay, well, I got to get rid of Armia, but the best deal on the table is a 5th round draft pick. So, I've got to take it, or, otherwise, he can work with that. So, I mean, I know it's not a great answer, but I mean, I could go either way with either of those two guys. And I mean, frankly, I could go the same way with Evans, right? If they keep Evans, I'm happy. If Evans isn't there, then I'm excited to see, how Owen Beck does, or how, the next guy up does, and does that mean the team might struggle a little bit? Like if Evans leaves and Owen Beck has to play on the 4th line next year, does that mean, we have to, take a bit of a step backwards, before we take a step forwards? I can live with that, because I think Owen Beck is the future of the team. Whereas I don't think that Armia, Savard, Evans might be the future. Evans might have a spot in the future of this team. I don't think that Armia and Savard do in any significant role.
Good point. I'm everywhere right now. Sorry about that. I follow what you said, both of you, but I have to insert people in the chat, and now I'm looking for the prospect makers, the goaltender. LDP says going to be a big part of the team, Newfoundland, next year. And I said, no, he's committed somewhere. He's committed with the team main and inside, but he is only at the season 2026-2027. So I learned something, Mr. Enortap. Again, I was right at some point, but not perfectly right. Final score, BU4, and
BC 1.
BC 1. Now I want to get, and yeah, it's over. But at the end of the day, guys, Fowler finished with a save percentage of .925.
Can I say something about that game before we move on? You guys should definitely go and look and see who do you think read the starting lineups in the dressing room for BU before the game?
And it meant Eiserman, Cole Hudson.
Who came in? Who as a guest came into the dressing room to announce the start lineup for BU before the game?
Lane Hudson
and Macklin Celebrini.
Oh wow!
Together. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Alumni.
They're on the ice there. Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. That's good to see that about that. But Cole Iserman have one goal tonight. Cole Hudson have one goal also tonight for the Boston. But I think they lost last year too in final.
They did to
Yeah,
Northeastern.
I don't know. I
That's
don't
right.
remember. It was maybe it was BU. It was Lane Hudson. So I don't know which one won last year. But interesting to see that.
BU and Northeastern, I think.
About that. I want to share with you what I'm thinking about this. I think the Army problem is contract at 3.4 season by the season. So it did trade with Evans and after Devin. That gave now for the team $5.1 million on the salary cap.
Right.
So they have to figure out that money. So if they make that kind of package deal, and after Devin, I believe will be a three-team deal. For the team, one both of them under salary cap. That's the first thing. And now, Armia, I think it will be gone also from the Montreal Canadiens, and I'm targeting the Florida Panthers to get Joel Armia.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
That's the kind of team I'm looking for to add some kind of power at the bottom six as a trade deadline. That could be wrong. Can talk about this later. And for David Savard, guys, the only reason you keep him. And he's getting slow, by the way. He's not the same Savard like he was the last two seasons, honestly. We see this and that.
Very slow.
More as a mentor, and the fact that the right defenseman is not there yet. Everything could change, Devin. Of course, the progression at some point, development of Logan Mayu and David Rebecca for the next 12 months, right? But I think they are not going to be both of them ready for October or feel comfortable. You keep Savard around the team, get him at $1.5 million. For me, I would give him $2 million anyway. I prefer what he brings around the team is worth it at the end. So I keep Savard, I let go Armia. And then after that, I'm going to surprise everybody. Got his the last two guys we have to move on. Pesada Devarak. Pesada will be gone. I keep Christian Devarak until to the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get much for Dvorak, really. You're not going to get much for either two of those guys. So I don't think there's really, like, what are you going to get for either of those two guys? Are you going to get anything better than a fourth-round draft pick? I mean,
and
again, I don't think
behind that, Devin and Enortap, I cut you, his contract is at $4.5 million.
That's right. It's not. It's not a easy one to deal.
It's not workable in either case.
The writing's on the wall. I think the obviously he'll walk at the end of the year, and then that's done. He's not part of the team moving forward. With Dvorak, I would agree. I think perhaps you finish off the year with him. Like sometimes you have to be able to walk away from it. I know it's not the greatest in terms of asset management to let a player walk, but at the end of the day, it's not like you're losing a huge piece here.
Yeah, we'll still be interesting what could happen for them. We don't want to waste too much time. But I just want to finish with you. No, I have no time, but we're going to talk about this tomorrow. The youth target is the draft pick, the prospect, and the NHL player established during the trade deadline. And of course, people say, why more draft pick? Because they are really good for trade at some point in our tap. And they are not necessarily to be in 2025. It could be all the way to 2026, 2027 too. So,
Exactly.
So we have to see what happening about that. So I don't want to lose too much time about this. We have to move on. We hit the 10-17 right there. And quickly, guys, I want to talk about the Rocket and the prospect for the Montreal Canadiens. The Laval Rocket won this weekend, guys. And what a great... I apologize. I go to get there. The Rocket won this weekend. And this time was Sean Farrell. Have a hat trick during the weekend. Primo have a great performance. He's now straight 10W straight. And the reason, to be honest with you guys, what they are is really the performance of Primo make a big difference. Laurent Jacquet have a good weekend, 1 goal, 1 assist like Jared Davidson. But their best player for the Laval Rockets on the weekend, they beat twice the Marlins. And they are installed not only the number 1 in the North Division, but they are also the number 1 in the American Hockey League with the best winning percentage. So congratulations for Pascal Vincent and for his coaching staff, assistant play coach, and the Laval Rocket players. I'm going to get a little bit more about them the next couple of weeks, but this is fun. This is great, and we'll see what happens. I think it will be fun if Montreal does not make the playoff to follow the Laval Rocket and Enortap and Devin during the next couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens with the roster. We take a chance the trade deadline, but we have to wait a bit more. But I want to finish with that. The prospect Evan Demidov, and of course did it again during the weekend. He scored 3 goals during the All-Star game. Yes, you can see was not really good, guys. If you're complaining about the NHL, don't take a time to watch the KHL because you're going to cry. And because it was really worse. Like they let guys go. They let them go all the way, guys. It was not very good. But Dimitrov have a couple of great move. Honestly, a great shot. That was a backhand, so honestly, it's not a big deal. But yeah, on the penalty shot, uh, you're going to see that how he used his quick release to score the goal inside the post about even the middle. So you're going to see that one, guys. Look at quick release there. This is pretty good, in my opinion, for even the middle happening for for the team SKA, and he's going to return on the ice tomorrow. During the weekend, we have a couple of players to select for the prospect. Sam Harris had trick for Sam Harris with 4 goals, 1 assist on the weekend. Then one was split against the Arizona State weekend. They lost 6-5 Saturday. But Harris was really the best player for them. Harris scored is 19 goals, 17, 18, 19. It would be interesting for him if he's going to stay with the team in Denver University or not. I think he's going to stay like Michael Edge. Michael Edge have a weekend of 1 goal, 1 assist for them. And Tyler Thorpe have 2 assists as on weekend with the Vancouver Giants. Again, Thorpe have an excellent game Sunday, I believe. His first assist, he was all the way from behind the net to go all the way to the end to opposite goal, the goalie. But he get a great pass on that one. So another great performance on the top overall. Kuivo looking good on the U20 tournament. He have 1 goal, 1 assist. Kapanen scored his first goal during the tournament also on the U20. This is a 5-nation tournament they do every year on that one. The pipeline Fowler honestly played today. Have a same percentage of 0.925. So a couple of information about the pipeline of the Montreal Canadiens. You can see now more move about the players. I don't know if you can see the replay of Demidov on that one. No, this was the pass of Tyler Top at the corner. But that's happening, guys, for the Montreal Canadiens prospects during the weekend. So great tournament, a great performance for them, of course, for the Montreal pipeline. And we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks for the rest. I have a couple of subjects, guys, but we'll go to the clash before that. It's only 10:20. We thank everybody to click on the likes tonight. We appreciate a lot of people in the chat. We appreciate a great conversation. The clash, Mr. Enortap, and tonight there's the kind of clash Devin love to have Mr. Enortap. So we'll see what happens. So we're going to give him the first question of the night. Absolutely or not allowed. Devin, Cole Caulfield get 40 gold and now his key 80 points.
Is it both or one of each?
Both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah. I say absolutely. I know they've both kind of slowed down a little bit of late, but I will say that they both. So Caulfield's got 26 goals, and Suzuki is just under a point per game pace right now. I will say absolutely. I'll say absolutely on that.
Enortap?
Definitely Suzuki with the 80. I think once he gets points, he usually gets them in bunches, 2, 3, 4 a game sometimes. So I have no qualms about that one. Caulfield 40 goals. They've got 26 games and he needs 14 goals. It's a bit of an ask. I think he might come very, very close to it, but he's not going to get it. So I'll go with not at all.
Okay. Suzuki, I think he's going to get it. It's just Caulfield, my biggest
Yeah,
concern.
me too.
And he would need to score more goal on power play, and the problem with Laney beside. So that because of Laney problem, it's just the position of on the power play for that. So it'd be really tough for Caulfield if he cannot score goal on power play. So I'll go with not at all. Next one, Enortap. Montreal Canadiens got 80 points with 26 games remaining. They have 55 points right now. To get that, they need at least 25 points to get 80 points. And they have to get play for 500 or 4.90. What do you feel about that?
Well, I hope they do it because I had them in the wheelhouse of 80 to 82 points at the beginning of the year in my predictions. So hopefully they'll get to that with 26 games. You know what, I think they'll still get there. Yeah, I'll say absolutely.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I said Montreal will finish with 86 points and Nick Suzuki will finish with 87 points.
Yep.
I know that's a bit of a stretch right now, but I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it. So I will say absolutely. Absolutely.
Exact Enortap.
Exact.
Yeah. Exact. A couple of weeks ago, I was thinking a bit more, but remember my selection was between 78 and 82 last year, like in October, right? I still believe
Yeah.
will be that number. So I just view it exact, honestly, because they can get 81 points and they can get 79 points. So let's go with the exact. But I know you understand my prediction was like this at the beginning of the year. And after that, Montreal finished at the bottom 10.
Absolutely. I think they're going to be hovering right around 9, 10, worst case scenario 11, but the or best case scenario depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I think they're going to be 10 or lower. So I'll go absolutely with that.
What are they right now? They're 23rd in the league, right? Right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll say absolutely. I think where they are right now is probably where they'll finish. Maybe a spot or two better, but again, I think that still puts them in the bottom 10. So I'll say absolutely.
Yeah, me too. I bottom 10. I think Montreal can, I think I need to figure out this, but I think that we have to maybe to do tomorrow with Marco Dash, like how many points Montreal can get on 26 game in our top. The maximum is 52
right.
points, right? So
yes.
right, so
Yeah.
she's 107 points, honestly. And they play for 500, so now they are 491, so they play for 25 points. So and it looked like the schedule is a little bit better, but still, the trade deadline could make an impact about that. So we all agree together.
It will.
Not a big clash on that one. So even Jake Evans, stay to the end.
Wow. To the end of this season?
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I have no idea. And if whatever answer I give will be a complete guess. And I will say absolutely. I think he will stay. I think at the end he will. I think his desire to stay with the Montreal Canadiens will override all other factors. And I think, again, it's a pure guess. But again, I'll say that he will stay till the end of the season and beyond.
Yeah, it's a tough. I know that there's a lot of talk going out there, and then people saying that they're way off in terms of contract numbers. But a lot of it could also be posturing. To put a little bit of an advantage for Montreal, Hughes in his dealings and sort of leaking it out a little bit and making it look like that they're way off, and so that might somehow sway the negotiations. I mean, I wouldn't even put it past. I know it doesn't happen very often, and I'm not suggesting it will in this case, but I wouldn't eliminate the possibility that he's just a rental to some team. You might get some pick for him, and then you go after him in the offseason as a UFA. If he really wants to come back and stay with the team, and that was his intention all along, then you negotiate the contract at that point.
Yeah, and
so
don't put a lot
I'll
of.
say
I mean,
I think he will be dealt under one of those two sets of circumstances. So I'll say absolutely. Or sorry, not at all. Yeah.
Pierre LeBrun gets it wrong a lot too. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Be careful your time. I only listen to you for 1 year. So when you said complicated, not at all, and absolutely, I don't know anymore what you're doing there. But
no, I said not at all. I think he goes. I think it's part of asset management, and they're going to do what's best for the team.
Yeah,
so
I agree with you.
Whether he's a rental or he arranges for a deal with another team at this stage, we'll see. But I don't think he stays to the end.
Devin, Hudson, 53 points.
What's he at now? 40? Is he at 40 yet? 38, 39?
No, he's 40 or 41.
41.
Okay. Absolutely. I think this break will give him a bit of the rest that he needs. I think he'll come back. I think the Canadiens will make an effort to get him back on his strong side, and I think that he will. Again, he's just one of those guys who just gets points sometimes just because, right? He's not, like he just gets points even. Not because he does anything spectacular. They just seem to happen. So to get another, 11 or 12 points between now and the end of the season, I think is pretty straightforward for him. So I will say absolutely Lane Hudson gets 53 points or more this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Coach. 53 points as well within his range. Yeah, I'm going to go with absolutely as well.
Yeah. Honestly, I was targeting 13 points. I think it was 40 points, so 54 points. After the 26th game, 0.5 is an average, or 0.8, I believe, right now.
The difference is the power play, right? As soon as hopefully the power play improves.
Yeah,
we've gone through a stretch where
it's always coming for power play in our tap, and unit 1 is struggling.
Yeah,
struggling right now.
Yeah,
I will go with that. Absolutely. About that, that's conclude, guys. The clash we got tonight on this episode of the weekly recap. Unfortunately, guys, this week we don't have no game for the Montreal Canadiens. On that one, I'm not going to see you guys. You both of you. Next week, until the next time. But I would like to hear from you guys. First of all, we want to thank Yamo, the winner of the preview last week. We have A2, One Week Kings, and Luc Laporcine, Mr. Enortap. They did not listen, me and you, and you go with that one. And Enortap, you have 5 points last week, Devin 4 points, and I go with 3 points.
Yeah.
I thought you're going to get 1 point at some point, but did not get it. So congratulations for that one over there. So people in the chat, everybody, we have 4 teams at the tournament: the Finland, Sweden, Canada, and USA. Devin and Enortap, and I would like to know who is going to win the 4 Nation, Mr. Devin.
I will say you're giving me the first choice. I'll say the USA.
Just how about you project them 1 to 4?
Because for the shot will be complicated.
Oh, I see.
Okay. I'll say USA. If you're giving me the first choice, I'll say USA.
We can repeat on that one, by the way. We can repeat the same thing, by the way.
Yeah, I'll say USA. Yeah. If you're asking me the order, I'll say USA, Sweden, Canada, Finland. But I want Canada to win.
Which one?
He said USA.
You Enortap?
Hey, I got to go with Canada. Of course, I got to go with Canada. They're the strongest team up the middle. I think that's going to be a definite plus. Their defensive core is very, very solid. You're looking at, arguably the 5 best players in the entire league are playing on Team Canada. So, yeah, are they weaker than other teams in goal? Yes, but if they're only going to face maybe 15 to 20 shots a game, I think they can overcome that. So, I say Canada to win.
Mark said I would take the chief coach Charleston Chief about that one over there for Mark about this. The Charleston Chiefs. I think Mark it was the Johnston. It was the Johnston team. Mark,
you coached there, didn't you, Coach? You coached the Charlestown Chiefs, didn't you, or the Johnstown Chiefs?
No, I did not. We play against them. I was not on part of this on this score. About that, Roy go to goaltending in our tap. I don't know if you follow him.
Yeah, as I said, that's not their strong suit, but in international competition, it doesn't necessarily have to be.
I'm going to go with Sweden because nobody took them, Mr. Tap.
I thought you could repeat.
Super chat.
We have a super chat. Patrick the White did it, ladies and gentlemen. Followed by Pete Martin, guys. Both of them have a super chat back to back. So it's time to celebrate at the end of the show, guys. A great super chat. Here we go. Thank you, both of you. Mark, not Mark, but Pete Martin did it, guys.
Hi.
And of course, Mr. Patrick LaWhite. Awesome to hear that, Mr. Patrick, to do that. Congratulations on that one. Hopefully, you're going to get that kind of bit tonight with the basketball, Mr. PLW. And that's what we want to get. What we got in the chat, Isaac Bro. We're missing one likes to get 60, guys. We get there. It'll be fun to watch about that. So at the end of the show, we're always looking, guys, to ask you, what are you looking for during the week? Honestly, it's the Four Nation. And we talked too much about the Montreal Canadiens, about the trade deadline, so we're not going to get there. But if you talk about this, Mr. Enortap, for the Four Nation tournament, I know some don't like it, some like it, some be like, who care? But at the end of the day, what are you looking for the team, for the Four Nation?
Anytime you have some type of international play, coaches, it's like I was saying earlier, the players, they're there for a reason, to represent their country, and they go there with the best possible effort they can put forth. And keep in mind, a lot of times, you're trying to select a team that with players that fit a particular role. It's not necessarily, hey, we're going in with our best 25, 26 players available to us. There, you have to anticipate where the strengths of other teams are, and the players you bring in will sort of counteract some of those players by either checking purposes or being on specialty teams. So, we can argue over the selections of some players, but I think that we have to keep that in mind. So I'm looking forward to some great hockey. Hopefully, my biggest wish is that on none of the 4 teams that nobody gets injured, because that would be catastrophic for some hockey teams that are have a lot of players that are representing their team in their national play. So let's hope they all stay healthy. That's the key.
Devin.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on that. I mean, obviously, I hope nobody gets hurt, but I also love. I really want to see how the decisions that have been made with respect to roster construction, how they work out, because I think that's really something that really intrigues me about tournaments like this, about how teams decide whether they bring the 12 best scorers or whether they try and get creative with the guys they bring. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. Laval Rocket play one game next week and 5 games the week after that, so that'll be fun to watch too. So that's what I'm looking for.
I'm looking for watch Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid. Maybe they would play together, or maybe on power play.
Marchand, the Nova Scotia line. The Nova Scotia line with Marchand.
Yeah, I know. We'll be interested what happening about that. That remind us of memories with Howard Shock and Lemieux and Gretzky. So we'll see what happening on that one. I think that's what I'm looking for and hopefully we have the great quality of hockey. No injury, like Enortap said, and with intensity. But I think the USA Canada, that game, guys, will be the next level. I tell you right now.
Wesh makes a great point in the comments. Line A and Armia playing for Finland, right? Are we cheering for Finland as Canadiens fans?
Not me.
Are we cheering for Finland?
Not me. I have to
go Canada. Canada, good Canadian boys.
I think Nick Ziski said he's go with Canada. Whatever, because the question it was asked to him by Pierre Hood before the game Saturday. But I can understand Nick Ziski said, look, I would cheer it for Finland, but I have to go with Canada at the end for
absolutely
Mountain Bowl. So we'll see what happens on the tournament. I want to thank Mr. Enortap and then of course Devin for your time tonight. I think we delivered great contents about the Montreal Canadiens tonight. Really great talking about what happening to them, what's coming for the trade deadline, and the only reason we got many people in the chat tonight is because of you.
You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you.
That's it. That's all, my friend. Of course, we want to thank moderator Ron Luciano tonight. Super chat of Patrick Lawhite. Of course, Pete Martin. And we want to thank RG Canada News Update. And all the people who click on the likes tonight. I can wait to see you tomorrow night, 8:30. Tomorrow night, Marco Darabi is going to knock the door. Talking about the formation and the Montreal Canadiens a little bit. Until then, my friend, be well, be out, find a way not only dominate your day, but find a way to dominate the first half of what? Mr. Enortap.
What else? You're 2025.
And it's a great night, both of you. I will see you next week. Have a great one, everyone. Thanks, Devin, and Enortap.
Good night, everyone.
We'll see, Coach. Thank you, Enortap.
And don't forget to follow Devin at what?
Recliner Sports 4 on YouTube. We are going to be premiering this week on Wednesday the very first episode of Habs Therapy Day, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Awesome. Have a good night, Devin. Thanks so much, Enortap. Here we go. Let's conclude the show tonight. The music will be out. It's no big deal. Listen, we can finish the show without the music. April Moon. I want to thank all the people in the chat tonight, guys. Mac Elliott, Luke Jefferson. Larry Lavalley knocked the door at the end of the show. He got the 60 likes tonight. Thanks a lot, Larry Lavalley. We want to thank Runway Kings of Pete Martin. Triple W, welcome back in the house, guys. It's fun to see the people come back sometime. We're missing them. And I know everybody is busy and everybody have their own life. And we understand that, guys. But it's fun to see you a couple of times. So I can't wait to see all of you guys until tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Mr. Luke Jefferson, have a great night. And don't forget, even the middle back on the ice tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. You can watch this at the on hockey.tv. You can watch the middle play tomorrow. And of course, we want to give you all the update on my X account at CodeFrenchy 10X. I deliver content about the Prospect Montreal, delivery content about the Laval Rocket, and I write my article every day about the Montreal Canadiens. And every game, I deliver my 3 takeaway and my 3-star of the week every Monday is all there on my X account, CodeFrenchy 10X. We want to thank, of course, Luciano and Mr. A2. And I can wait to see you until the next time, my friend. Have an amazing, great night. Great weeks, everybody. And don't forget, not only the Hockey Nation, I'm sure the Hab Nation want to tell you, we love you. But be a light to someone. I know you can make it friends and make an impact at whatever who you are. You're always thinking, maybe I cannot helping anyone. No, who would be? No, you can be a light to someone. Just a nice gesture, a text, a phone call, a 20-second of your life to make an impact to someone. It would make a not a big things. It makes sometimes just a great little things to make it fun to someone. Until then, until I eat my next cheese, I wish you an amazing great night. I wish you tonight. And of course, at the end, we said everybody, booyah! Good night, everybody.